embarrass, if you go back to the meaning, means to perplex, to throw into doubt, and it actually comes from words that mean to block. And I can tell you that I was afraid of embarrassment from about the time I was 1 year old until 21. I lived on a farm until I was 5 years old. I lived on a farm my whole life until I moved to go to college. And from 1 to 5, it was just me, my mom, my dad, and my sisters and brother. So by the time I got to school, I put my foot in my mouth before I walked through the door because I knew it would get there eventually. I was such just a bad kid. I didn't know what any boundaries were in terms of telling people what I thought. By the time I was 12, I was almost this height. That's the year that I call the year of every knee was skinned every day, because I fell down all the time. I didn't know where my feet were. I was just the most awkward child. I hated my body. Boys didn't like me because I was too big. I was too tall. I had no breasts. I had no butt. I had nothing. So I tried to be perfect, much like Joe. And I went to college and I tried to be so very proper, to the point that when I went to a jazz club and heard, I was actually had a boyfriend who was a jazz musician. When I went to a jazz club and everybody was like doing this, you know, like they're sitting there going like this, I thought, I will never, ever do that. I will never embarrass myself by doing that with my head, you know? And so if I had to talk to my 21-year-old self, I would say, don't be so afraid of being embarrassed, because being embarrassed makes you humble, and it unites you with other people, and it gives you such joy to be embarrassed. I first posed for a nude photograph when I was 19. I'm so happy I have that photograph, because it gives me such joy to see my young self. So that's 21. What gives my life meaning is the second word, which is intimacy. And intimacy, from the 1600s on, has always meant sex. And I will say that has given my life meaning. But I'm not going to talk about that. I am going to talk about that moment when you really come close to another human being and you know them from, soul to soul. I'm a professional persuader. I am now working in advocacy, but I've been a fundraiser my whole life, a communicator, and I really love that moment when you convince somebody that they want to do what you want to do, and that they really want to take that step with you, and they really want to go the next mile. Sometimes it's cooking together. I spent today with some friends cooking all day, and it was just glorious. We were so close to one another. Sometimes it's listening to music, sometimes it's being immersed in a piece of art. But it's also that there's magic in it. There's a photo in my slide series where it's at the end of a trip that Don and I took to Morocco. And we took camels out into the desert for 2 hours. We get out there and there are these 2 Tuareg boys who were 20 years old who had led us out there. They put the tents up. We slept in the cold. They didn't speak any English at all. They fed us food over a little fire, and then they wanted to entertain us. So the first thing they did was they took rope, and they tied our hands together. And they tied us up, and they said, okay, you could tell, it's a puzzle. Try and get out. So Don and I are kind of freaked out, right? So we're 2 hours out in the Sahara Desert, tied up in a little tent with 2 guys, right? But we figured it out. We figured out how to get out. And then they played music for us they put over a tub, and then they used it as a drum, and they sang to us, and it was beautiful. And it was very intimate. Then we had to do our bit, and we had to sing. So I sang, I'm a little teapot. I'm a little teapot. In a little tent. And I'm telling you, I was embarrassed. But they loved us after I'm a little teapot. The second story about intimacy I'm going to tell you is when I first took Don home to meet my parents. And my mother was dying, and my father was taking care of her, and they had no time to really get to know the man that I was going to marry. So we were playing baseball and hanging out with the nephews and everything else, and when Don's really relaxed and happy, he leans over and he kisses me on the shoulder. And it was summer, and we were, I didn't think my parents were paying attention at all. And when at the end of the weekend, I said to my father, "Do you think it's going to be all right? How do you feel about Dawn?" And he leaned over and kissed me on my shoulder. I'm going to cry that one. So I know I'm about to the end of my time. So I want to transition to how I feel about my own death. And the third word that I want to bring to you all is powerlessness. And it relates to my portrait in a sense, because we really don't have a lot of power over how we age. And the only power we have is bringing it back and being honest with ourselves about what we can and cannot do. We can exercise, we can eat right, we can do anything we want, and still, I'm going to tell all you young people, you're going to end up lumpy and big. Whether you like it or not. And you might as well embrace the embarrassment and think about how the powerlessness that you have over your own death and your own body and the way you age. But I'm going to end on a slightly political note, which is that I've now held my parents' hands and several friends' hands through the ends of their life. And I believe that we have to die better in this country. And I want everybody to know that if there's one thing this project has made me think, is that I'm going to commit more of my time to the Right to Die movement. And thank you.
Because secrets kill. Addiction is a warm Saturday night of blues. Dipping a heroin into heroin. Music is a high that Carry On never came down from. It has been 7 years without a hit. She never quit. She always hits a high note. She asked the clouds to pay her rent.
Good evening, everyone, family and friends. The three questions we have, we'll try to answer quickly so I can give you a little something else to listen to. What gives my life meaning? Sound, visual arts, the gift of song. If I wake up every day and one of those were missing from my life, there would be no reason to stay here. And what I would tell my 21-year-old self is, do not be afraid to leave town, this town, and follow your dreams. And what I think about death is that nothing. I think that I've come through a lot of trials and tribulations. I made a lot of bad decisions in life. Addiction was the worst. Like she said, I have 7 years clean, and I'm 61 years old. Also, I will tell my 21-year-old self that use your own heart to pursue your passion, which is music. And God has given me the gift of song. And I share it with everyone. It's my life. That's what I do. So, on that note, am I changing my life and being a better person today, clean, sober, serene? I say to you all, look at me, look at me. I am changing, trying every way I can. I am changing, and I'll be better than I am. I'm hoping to sort it out, and I know that I can, but I need you. I need a but now I am changing. Oh yes, I know how I'm gonna start